Hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. I'm Rachel Allard, back again with you for another installment of our Female Founder series. Today, I'm super excited to have an amazing entrepreneur and inspiring person, Molly McKinley, who's here. Molly has many different roles. Molly owns her own company, Intentionalities, which is part of an umbrella of intentional business, which includes her marketing agency, RedTail Creative. She's an author. She's also VP of brand strategy for RateMyAgent. She does a ton. So welcome, Molly.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And can we maybe start with just everything you do and kind of give us how you describe what you do today, all your businesses, and also kind of your origin story. How did you get here?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think it's a trend, right? I think I also do a podcast called Afternoon Tea, and so I also have interviewed a ton of women entrepreneurs, and that conversation always comes up. Well, how should I be introduced? Because I'm wearing many hats and have many titles. So I think this is a trend. I don't think it's just me. My philosophy on it is that whatever I'm doing needs to fuel or feed the other projects and not detract from it. So I think that's part of where it starts to like work and not be like you're having like 40 jobs. How do you have enough time for that? Right. And so, for me, I'm very particular about making sure that there are red threads connecting everything that I'm doing. And so that, like I said, it just is about creating this community, this structure of projects, if you will. And I think that we do that because, we are multifaceted and we have lots of different passions and skill sets. And for me, I love being able to use all parts of my brain, and different projects feed different parts of me. And so, the tea, for example, is something now that we weave into our creative process. And when we sit down to meet with people, we sit over a cup of tea or 3 cups of tea, if you will, and really have that sort of be the conversation starter about who you are and what you care about, and how we could potentially do business together. So again, it's finding the synergies between projects. I think where the magic starts to happen. So.
I love that. And as proof pudding, I have my Intentionalities tea here that you sent me. It's amazing. It smells so good. And so I'm curious, have you always had this sort of mantra and this ability to connect these different parts of your life and these areas from which you get passion and which you're passionate about? Or did you have this kind of aha moment at some point in your career where you realized, like, actually, this is what you want to be doing, is building this sort of environment for yourself?
No, I mean, not at all. So I think, you know, my story, when you look, I look terrible on paper, right? I am a art history, fine art degree. I started my master's in interior design. So I worked as an art dealer, and then I worked as an interior designer. And then by happenstance, got into public relations in Silicon Valley in the 90s. And that is really where I sort of got on this path to marketing, if you will. But running art galleries is sort of leveraging and using all of the skill sets of public relations and marketing and sales. And, but it, I think the primary skill of creative thinking and creative solving, problem solving, is a universal skill set that applies to any project that you're working on. And I do think that is my super skill. But no, I mean, it wasn't intentional. If When I'm looking back in the rearview mirror at how my work today is pulling from all of my past experience, I would say that it's divine intelligence, and that everything has absolutely prepared me for the next thing. But in the moment, as I was walking the path, I would not have said I was doing it with an end in mind. But now that I have some wisdom under my belt and some life experience, moving into my second chapter of life, I can clearly see how everything has absolutely been an integral piece to the big puzzle. But I mean, like, for example, even with my art background, I use that every single day in marketing. I mean, having an eye for yes and no and being able to quickly grok whether it's going to connect or not. Those are skills developed as an art dealer to be able to quickly discern whether it's going to connect or not connect. So there's all of these pieces that kind of come to the fore ground that I'm grateful that I've had, as experience, but absolutely not. And then the other piece of that is too, is I'm a 500-hour yoga teacher. So, having committed to spiritual studies for the last 15 so years, intently, and with earnest, has really prepared me for my book, which is about marrying intention and spiritual practices with business and making those connections of how business can and should be done differently.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I love that, and I love your story. And when we first spoke, I think one of the things that rung so true is that this year is a year unlike any other, and what a time to have someone like you taking on, growing your business and being able to help us be more intentional and spread that creativity and spread that connectivity. And so I'm curious what you're hearing from your customers, from your friends, from your market now, and kind of what has fueled you, and whether it really is at the as in demand as I think it is.
yeah, what's interesting is I think, people are saying that COVID has been the great pause, right? And we know that pausing is a natural cycle of creation, right? We have nature to look to. We have the ocean waves of ebbs and flows. Like there are so many different models that we have to look to acknowledge the fact that an unsustained growth model is not synchronistic to any other model that exists that in nature, right? So I think COVID has given everybody an opportunity to stop and say, oh, you know what? I understand now that good ideas come when I'm driving or when I'm in the shower. It's because it's the only time of day I'm allowing for quiet, right? And as innovators and, who need inspiration, the root of inspiration is in spirit, right? So when we connect to that part of ourselves that is able to create, is really the root of innovation. And for some reason, I think COVID is starting to give everybody sort of a moment to reflect upon that. So I think that is a good thing. In terms of whether or not we need this, I mean, my backstory is, having studied yoga for as long as I have and having worked with so many different types of people in business, I kept finding myself looking for some sort of common language, if you will, about how to do business that didn't really exist because we all come from such varied backgrounds of different spiritualities and religions and home lives and ethics and all of those kinds of things, and there seemed to sort of be this lack of common language, and from what I was seeing is that for whatever reason that people gave each other permission to be bad to their customers and people 9 to 5, but they would never treat their family or friends in that regard, right? Under the guise of, winning or, getting the commission or whatever, we give ourselves a lot more road to get the deal done, if you will. That doesn't really seem synergistic with who we would be as people or yeah, so that was the thing that was really kind of keeping me up. It's like, why do we do that, and with what's going on in politics and the blurry lines between truth and lies, and I'm not taking a stance on that, but I'm just saying it's a national conversation that we're having right now about tr- truth and lies. it's an interesting moment for us to kind of come together and say, well, how do we want to treat each other in business? And what does that look like? And what are the rules and the road signs that we can all sort of collectively follow, regardless of where we come from or where we've started? So the long answer is, I don't know if people know they need it, but I think it's absolutely the moment where we can raise the bar.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and as you're talking, I mean, some of the things that stand out to me, the sustainable nature of it, right?
Yeah.
And the human connection being part of who we are, and why is it that we have these two different, we're a different person in the office.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Um,
any sense. So like that was one of those like a dated idea, right? Is that you have your personal and your professional personas, right? The truth is though, with a digital environment, that does not exist. I mean, and so if that is still the standard that we're trying to achieve, it does not exist.
mhm.
And so we have to figure out how can we have a personal professional relationship and persona that is aligned and that is also aligned with our values. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so I'm curious, in addition to that, or maybe separately, you have so much experience working with amazing women and other leaders, and are one yourself. I'm curious, what else, what that experience has meant to you, or what other insights you've gleaned from sort of the most successful leaders that you've worked with, and what makes them stand apart, what makes them different from everyone else? Are they
yeah.
already practicing the things you're talking about?
Yeah, I love that. So sort of for me, the thing that I see in people who are really not just succeeding, but are happy and have lives that are fulfilling is balance, right? And some people say that balance is an unachievable aim, and I disagree. I think it's something that we just have to define what balance looks like. And again, going back to sort of understanding the laws of nature and sort of the natural ebbs and flows, there will be times that our lives are out of balance, but it always sort of comes back in sync and a rhythm. So it's about women who have found a rhythm for their lives, right, in the season that they're in. And the other thing is when women are sort of in their sovereignty. And what I mean by that is that they know who they are. Know thyself is the most important aim that we can each as individuals collectively be striving for, is to know who you are, because then you're building a life with purpose and intent. We're not moving and being thrashed in the waves of reaction anymore, right? We have a very clear vision, and we are sovereign in our ability to co create and to create that life that we see for ourselves. And I see women all the time doing that exact thing. But it is about stepping into that. It is about being intentional. It is about knowing who you are, what you care for, and that's where you say yes to some things and no to others, right? Because you have that you have that line, and again, you know what's going to feed and what's going to pull from, and it's again easy to decide that's not for me because it's going to pull from, versus yes, that feeds and it fills part of this larger story. So the thing that for me that kind of, I had a moment last year at Woman Up in San Diego, when so many women entrepreneurs in the real estate space were on stage talking about their businesses and using language like soul filling and inspiration and those kinds of words that often are left out of business speak, right? Because they're soft or fluffy, and often dismissed as being powerful. But for the first time, I actually saw the embodiment of power in the feminine aspect, using those words and honoring and owning the fact that we are, multidimensional beings who are creating. And that sounds a little fluffy, but it is our superpower. And owning it, right? And so, as a woman in business for a long time, oftentimes, oh, Molly, or getting dismissed about things because the way that I package it sounds woo woo. But the truth is, enough woo woo that is accurate starts to get attention. And now I'm just comfortable enough to say, you know what, I have the data of the ones and the zeros, and I have the data of my gut and my instincts and intuition. And those two pieces combined make me super powerful. And I'm not afraid to own that anymore. But for a lot of women, just trying to sort of be falsely humble about things. And it's like, look, I'm going to get it wrong and I'm going to get it right. But I also know that I can trust myself. And you see that in women now, and it's kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. There's so many things in there. I mean, from talking about co-creation and all the work you've done to help others get to this place, to also just owning what you've done. I feel like I have to ask, I mean, what now in this moment where, you can stand up and say, you are amazing. You have accomplished a lot. There is no way to dismiss or minimize that. What are you most proud about that you've accomplished and that, you want to?
Yeah, I think getting my book, done. I've been writing it for 4 years, and it was something that, was kind of always just grinding, and just never really flowing. And so I actually sequestered myself and went into the mountains by myself, left my, wife and kids at home to, hold down the shop while I actually went and did something for myself and cranked out the book. And, wrote crazy, like 15 hours a day, and got into the zone. So, and I'm not a natural writer. So for me, like that was an accomplishment. And now, we're working on getting this book to launch. We'll be creating some coursework out of it, which is a combination of some, how do you build an intentional business? What does that look like? And how can we marry, and for me, I'm personally on a mission right now to help people learn meditation techniques, and learn how to focus so that they can actually start to be intentional about their businesses, because I do think our world is distracted and chaotic right now. And again, I think that is that glue between building the life of your dreams versus just sort of reacting, if you will. But I think the book, and right now just being so hyper committed to giving back, it matters to me. I want to help lift women up. Our business is 100% women owned. We have 100% women on our staff. And, and it's not because I don't love men, I do. It's just that right now, I think that it's really, really important. If I'm going to be walking the walk, part of that is creating right living, so that other women then can create right living in their worlds. And that's just something I'm really committed to.
Yeah. Well, and part of that, feeds into your brand and your business mission. And I know when we first talked, I mean, you're a highly sought after marketer, and being, marketing nerd myself, I really appreciate that about you, and that you do have these connections between the different parts of your business. So I guess help us, without maybe giving away all your secrets, help us understand, and our audience understand, how you help people out there develop their brands, and kind of what are some of your tips for women out there who are sort of maybe timid to put themselves out there, or don't necessarily know what marketing strategies they may be able to use, and they don't want to necessarily adopt these kind of more just things that don't feel as authentic and more kind of over your head.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I think that it goes down to the absolute root of knowing thyself. If there's anything, like, just take out your pen and write that on the very top of your paper right now. Whoever is listening, know thyself. Do the work to understand who you are, what you care about, and then align your business with that. Right. So when it comes to marketing, when things are falling flat or are not connecting, it's because we are locked into this mode of should. And we're doing things that other people are either telling us we should do, or we're emanate or trying to mirror or mimic businesses that are winning, but they aren't necessarily aligned with our values, aligned with our voice, and aligned with the things that, that root of why we even started this in the beginning. And so understanding that thing, right? Like why you're here, why, for most of the audience is real estate likely, so why did I do this? And what does it like, what was I intending to build? And really getting very, very crystal clear about that first, and then making sure any marketing or messaging or any way that we connect with our people, because I fundamentally believe that marketing is just a series of conversations with people that you're either in business with or you want to be in business with. And, like what conversation do you want to be having? And not just get locked in this sort of generic pushing, to get something out the door so that you can check a box. But putting that, I'm getting I'm going to have a cough here in a second. But really, really getting specific about what conversation do I want to have and what do I want to leave behind. I'm a big believer right now, particularly in COVID, in how do you create magic moments for people. And what I mean by that is we're doing that. We're solving that through our business with what we're calling experiential marketing. We're doing a lot of boxes. One project that we did for a local agent in Maplewood, New Jersey, her name is Tracy Freeman. She called me and she's like, Molly, I have 40 boxes of Calgon sitting on my front deck that I bought because they were, she got them at the dollar store or whatever. I'm like, Calgon? She's like, yeah, I need to find a way to, what am I going to do with this? So we had a little bit of a conversation about what her intent was, why she got that. And, it turns out that she just wanted people to have a moment. She wanted to send a little bit of peace, a little bit of love to her people, just so that she knew that, hey, it's super stressful, but you've got this, And so we created this really lovely package with that sentiment, with some chocolate and this box of Calgon. And it's been a massive hit, right? So delivered in some, a beautiful tote with the message. So she was able to basically safely, deliver these to people and just say, hey, just have a moment. I know it's been a hard year, but I'm here for you. And that kind of connection and emotional marketing is not something that you can fake with a flyer. Sending out a bunch of stuff to a bunch of people that's generic is not going to nearly get the return as something that's thoughtful and filled with heart and soul. And that's really what I encourage people to do. And I think that's kind of where our magic sits, with RedTail, is like, how do you create thoughtful, magical moments for people so they really actually trust you and you're building that loyalty. So that's kind of what I would recommend. Know thyself and how can you really serve your people.
I love that. Well, and talking about the other thing that you do, which is obviously helping people build their business through marketing. Yes, there's the marketing component, but then there's also just the business, like the brass tacks of actually like having your business. And as someone who's started multiple businesses and been successful, I'm curious, you've given a lot of tips, advice to people today. What would you tell yourself? One of the things that stands out to me is how much has come together for you at this point in your life, not intentionally, though you are now leading with intention moving forward. If you could save, younger Molly that time of, all those things that kind of got you to this point, what advice would you have given to yourself back then?
That's a good one. I'm going to say trust and faith. You know, when we walk in the moment and are present, we're able to observe and engage in the opportunity before us. I think that is something that now that I am, you know, like I said, older and moving with intent and purpose, you know, I can see more clearly and I'm practicing that, right? So, but my younger self, you know, I had, you know, all of these random careers, right? That didn't necessarily look like they fit together. And so, but I was following my instinct. So if something was popping up, I was like, oh, that, yes, that strikes that nerve or that scratches that itch, you know? And so I think people are often too afraid to listen to their intuition, and because of either societal norms or expectations that they've put on from themselves or from their families. And I think that is the one thing I didn't do. I kind of was able to flow. And now that fluidness has created a lot of opportunity for me. And so, you know, be present and, you know, look for opportunity. I mean, that is, again, something that we often don't talk about in business, but, you know, that is a super skill, because if you are present, you're able to see how things can come together in a way someone who is either in the past or future is unable to do. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like wraps up into a lot of EQ language as well, you know, but I would challenge anybody to say, you know, in any moment, any business, if you can step out of your head a bit and just kind of listen to what's actually happening, you know, you'll be able to solve for the moment.
Mhm. I love it. Well, and last question, you know, you're an author, you're a podcast host, you're, you know, an art lover. What are your favorite books, things to listen to when you're not creating the material? What are your sources of inspiration that you would recommend to others?
Yeah, well, I think that my best recommendation is to read, right? I read a book a week and I probably listen to a book a week as well. So I'm consuming a lot of my own content. I have a very specific ritual where I do that every morning. I start my day with reading. The book I'm listening to right now, which find is a super great introduction for anybody who is finding themselves not in control of their lives, is called Indistractable. And it's a really practical book about how to understand what's happening in the mind about how you're getting pulled away from tasks at hand. So in Indistractable, not Undistractable, which is our mantra for Rate My Agent, but Indistractable, I think that is great. And another business book that I highly recommend is anything by Douglas Rushkoff. I feel like he is an absolute visionary and pioneer for our life today. He's written books like Team Human, Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus, Life Incorporated, you name it. Anything from him I have read. And then for me personally, you know, I would start there with those books, but actually I think what I'm going to do, because I read so much, I am going to, you know, when we officially launch the book in January, we'll have a readers club of all of the different books that have sort of helped inspire the conversation that we're having. So they can tune into that. So
Are you gonna make it public? Can I join your book club?
absolutely, yes, absolutely, yeah. It'll be like a self-paced book club, right? But yeah, we're gonna RedTailCreative.com is going to be the URL. It's not launched yet. We're still building it, and that's going to happen sometime in January. And our book is called The Intentional Business: A Path to Purpose and Prosperity. So.
I love it. Well, Molly, this has been amazing. Congratulations on all of your success, and thank you for sharing your wisdom. For everyone who tuned in late, this is Molly McKinley, who has a million titles, does awesome things, founder of RedTail Creative, Intentionalities, VP of Brand Strategy at RateMyAgent, and just all around superhero. Thank you, Molly, for being our female founder guest today. I'm Rachel Allard with Union Street Media. Please join us next time.
Thanks so much.